Every damn day.
Hello, everyone. It's Jerry at the Fledge, and welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. And today we've got my new friend Jason on the show, and we're going to be talking about manufacturing, good jobs, and how to build our communities. How you doing today, Jason?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to talk today.
Yeah, where are you at in the world? I saw you're an international traveler.
Yeah, I am currently sitting just outside of Austin, Texas, at my house. We've got a small hobby farm out here.
Yeah, I used to come to Austin for the National Organic Program every year. I loved Austin back then, but I guess it's changed quite a bit from the late 90s.
It's definitely a changing city, to say the least.
And is it a pretty progressive city?
It is pretty progressive. We live out. It's progressive, but it's still got its culture. It's cool. They're doing a good job to preserve. I mean, the whole thing is keep Austin weird. They're preserving that kind of. It's the capital of Texas. I mean, there's some old school stuff going on around there.
Yeah, I took Keep Austin Weird and changed it into Keep Bitcoin Shady. Is kind of we have T-shirts that say that and all of that. But anyways, let's why don't you tell us about your background and anything you want to talk about?
So I mean, I started my career. I was 15 years old and decided to start a company. I not necessarily would recommend that to anybody else. We started it in February of 2007. And everyone knows what happens right towards like the fall, early 2008, all markets collapse and all that stuff. And we, of course, decided to do it in the manufacturing sector, which was not a pretty space to be at the time. But what was cool is we got to see the bottom of the barrel. And we really got to see what happens when plants start shutting down and the impact that has to local communities. So we built our companies up. Kind of the way we joke about it is we hit every single low hanging branch on the way and kind of got tripped up, but we got to learn. It was a lot of fun, and that kind of just pushed us into we made everything from T-shirts, so that we started in the apparel world doing like crazy like prints for shirts and all this fashion stuff, and then moved into retail displays. And next thing you know, we're making children's toys or orthopedic insoles, sheet metal parts. I mean, it just kind of blossomed into this world of how do you make things and how do you understand how to make them. And then how to do it at production levels. And then we learned that it was largely a people business. And I mean, at one point, I think our company's average age was 18 or 19 years old across like 25 employees. We were just young kids, just going for it. And then we started working more and more with some people that have been in the industry for 30 years, 40 years, and kind of blending those two worlds together and really getting the hardened old timers to start trying concepts that we're playing with, and then also tell us that we're absolutely crazy for other concepts we're playing with. So it's been just a wild ride to really figure out how does that manufacturing industry work? How do the people within it work? How does it relate to the rest of the world around it?
Yeah, this is so timely that your origin story is like that, because we're in the middle of a youth entrepreneurial program, and we're really not trying to launch businesses. We're just trying to teach the steps of entrepreneurialism and kind of the work ethic behind it. But some guy came at me sideways that I was setting the kids up for disappointment, that no kid's ever gonna start a business making T-shirts and make it big, and I'm going to send this show to him.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't recommend it for everybody. Like I said, it hasn't been the greatest, but to teach the skill sets is important. I mean, that's how you build your next set of leaders in the world. I've seen massive growth in myself. My brother is my business partner, or one of my business partners, and we grew up together going through this, and The cool thing when you start young is you have so little that you have nothing to lose. And there were times like we're sitting there going, hey, you know what? We're no broker than we were when we started. So
Yeah.
you've got a whole different perspective on it. And you have the energy too. So I commend you guys for working with kids to show them that there's these opportunities out there and that it doesn't take this massive bankroll to pull it off.
Yeah. I think most of, a lot of times people, they start out wanting to have their own company. They think they're going to be their own boss. They don't know that everybody's going to be their boss when they're the boss. And a lot of times they'll pivot and go on to a career in the thing that they were interested in starting. And I'd rather have a bunch of innovative, creative people working for me than a bunch of people that, have never tried or risked, something before. And I think that might lead into like your continual improvement and your process efficiency stuff too, because it really takes the people, right?
It takes people and really teaching them that there's other opportunities available, aspects of what they're doing. One of the biggest things that we buy legacy American manufacturing companies, and most of the time you're going to go into these companies and they're going to have, we've done this way for 25 years. Okay, why did you start doing it that way? And the people can't even remember the thing that they were trying to fix. Where when you get some of these innovative guys, they'll be like, I don't know why we do it that way. Can we try doing it a different way? Sure, why not? Let's test it. And it's that culture of really getting people to think, hey, they could be better is very important.
Yeah. So, that almost sounds like are you getting into private equity? Are you a private equity?
So we are we are technically a private equity firm. But really we are a manufacturing group that understands the people and the businesses. We've got the private equity aspect that creates our funding mechanism. We made sure it allows typical accredited investors to be involved. Because one of our big things for what we're doing is we wanted the local communities and the people to really benefit off of what we were doing in these businesses. So there's multiple tiers of how people are involved, and we found that private equity was the best tool by which to do that because it allowed a bunch of limited partners to come in with a low risk profile, but still benefit on all of the growth and potential that we're building out.
When you see a company that you're looking to acquire like that, do you go into the community and look for accredited investors within that community too?
We look everywhere for accredited investors. So the way I'll give kind of a brief overview of how the fund works. We're looking for accredited investors throughout the United States. Throughout the world, but the reality is we're going into American manufacturing. So a lot of our interest comes from American people. We find these companies almost always that they're going to be a profitable company. They're going to be a good company, usually second, third generation, and the owner's looking for his retirement. We come in first kind of promise we make to everybody is we're going to figure out what makes this company tick. How, like one of the companies we're talking to right now, the owner's basically like Santa Claus. He spends all year buying presents for the company giveaway at the end of the year, and they do this like big event. And that was one of the first things he told us, and we're like, okay, that's awesome. We need to preserve that. And then we work to combine all of these companies into one overall portfolio. We're going to, in about 5 to 7 years, we're going to turn and we're actually going to transfer 100% of the ownership to the employees. So the American factory worker will actually own the factory within which they work. So it loops all.
Can I applaud in the middle of my show?
Yeah. So it loops all of that together. It really, truly is about, hey, the investors are going to benefit. Of course, us as the general partners, we benefit. And then also at the end of it, the employees benefit. And that's the coolest series of events is you really get this win-win. We come in, make sure that people understand. I give an example as far as understanding the community you're in. If you ask an employee to work Friday night during high school football season in California, If their kid doesn't play football, doesn't really matter. You do that exact same thing in Texas, you can actually destroy their social network, because like I live in a very rural area. If you don't go to Friday night football, you might not see your buddies that you went to play Friday night football with, and you can actually damage their social structure by just not understanding that slight difference in that community. So we try to go find these things out about people, and we're not perfect, but we go in and go, hey, what is it that makes you guys tick, and like explain it to us, and then we try to double down on that and really make sure that they're actively involved in all of it.
So why? Oh man, I love that analogy or that story you just told. I just moved out of a town that their logo was, you don't play the high school, you play the town.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's exactly, they go to the bar afterwards if they're old enough, and all those things.
Yeah,
I think that's amazing.
And there's tons of places in the country that is just baffling to them. And it's like, hey, you got to understand where you're at. And protecting that community is incredibly important. And this could be a big city like LA, or this could be a little rural town like Cedar Creek, Texas. I mean, you don't know what it's going to be, but you got to preserve that, because that's what makes everything amazing.
Yeah. So let's stay on a little town for a second.
Yeah.
And, I really am picking up. I love what you're doing, because I think, if that person, let's say another private equity firm buys it and they dismantle it and put the customers onto some other part of their portfolio, that's what you see in the movies, right? Wall Street and all that.
And in all honesty, that's what happens. I mean, and the greater majority of the time, that's kind of how buying legacy manufacturing plants works. So they do kind of strip mine them and move all the resources to one zone.
And you can really destroy a community and a town when that happens, when they lose that manufacturing, that special part of the job.
Correct, because what a lot of people don't realize is manufacturing is not what we think of it anymore. The old factories that are just dangerous and grueling on your bodies and it's low pay, it's all this rough stuff, which is what most people think of as factories, is not the case anymore. If you look at like Tesla, look up a video of any of their factories. Mm-hmm. These are white floors, brightly lit, safety mechanisms everywhere. Like and they're great paying jobs. And these are things that can support entire families, communities, and they don't take a drastic educational expense to get into. It's really an opportunity to do well, but we have to change our mindset. Where industry's gone is very, very different than what we have stuck in our heads of where it was. And these really are things that can completely change this country from within, of making sure these jobs get revitalized and that we protect these incomes for people.
Yeah. So from 1988 to 2014, I was in the ISO 9000 world, the compliance world, traveling all over the world, doing audits or implementing systems for people. And I was lucky, and I felt like I lived how it's made every day. Like I got to live a new episode of it. Yeah. And sometimes I do the job that the person was doing just to get a feel for, how grueling it was. And it definitely was a shift through those 30 years.
Yeah, it's a completely different thing than what the average person thinks of when they think of manufacturing. And frankly, that's why it's suddenly it's once again a very good place for people to be. And it's a huge loss when a community loses that.
Yeah. So do you use the term manufacturing 4.0, or is that just us in Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of those buzzwords out there right now. What frustrates me about manufacturing 4.0 is exactly what 3.0 was. Everyone thinks of this is this, and then, in 10, 15 years, we'll have 4.0. It's like, no, guys, this is a continual process. You are not like, don't start and stop. Just, you're going to continually make it better. You're going to continually help people. And so I don't like using the 4.0 thing, because it's like, I literally talk to people who are like, no, we're going to go to 4.0 soon. And you're like, dude, like, that's not how it works.
See, I can tell you're a process guy in manufacturing because you're not using the word continuously.
Yeah.
There was a big debate in the early 2000s or late 90s, maybe, about continually versus continuously.
Yeah.
That's always funny to me. We argue over these words,
Oh,
but
yeah.
words are important. That I think just like you, that it's got to be this continuum that we're going on, and it's not just zap. Now we're at 4.0. We didn't just upgrade our computer or whatever. Do you ever think about that, like with Web 3.0? Do you look at crypto and blockchain
Yeah,
and stuff?
I mean, I do a little bit. I stay in my lane where I'm a definite expert, where I know manufacturing systems and processes, and try. I've got a lot of friends that are large in the crypto space, and there's sometimes they start talking like, hey, just you want me to start telling you how to injection mold something? No, it's gonna go over your head. Let's just calm down for a second.
A flash, short shot, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So what really I started applauding when you said that you're going to turn them into employee owned companies. We are currently in the process of turning the Fledge into a decentralized autonomous organization in the using blockchain, using smart contracts, and we've got about 20% of our resources under the DAO's management right now. So I'm a big fan of what you're doing there. Why do you want to do that?
So there's two sides to it. I'm just going to put the financial side out there first, because I do want people to understand that there is a financial side of this. It makes business sense to for all intents and purposes, do 100% profit share with the employees for them to buy the company from us. But more importantly, this came out of a conversation I was sitting down with my leadership team, and I was like, we're doing this for the people, guys. Like, if not, we don't need the PE side. We don't need, like, we'll just go do it ourselves and hold on to the company for the rest of our lives. Is that really what any of us are really caring about here? And they're like, no. And one of the guys goes, well, then I have a way. If we give the ownership to the employees and we transfer it through an ESOP, and that they get the shares, that community now has control of that company in perpetuity. And that you don't have to fear someone coming in and destroying the plants, because you have locked the ownership in that community. And that's what did it. When we realized that it mathematically worked, but it also guaranteed the legacy. Now, the workers at one point could decide to move it out, but if the community is deciding to do it, that is their choice. It's not a heavy hand coming in going, yeah, you know what, we're going to move that there because it increases profit by 1% next year. Or like we talked about, that industry 3.0 versus 4.0. What happens, and the reason why I dislike that term, or it's not even dislike, I don't use it very often. You'll see somebody build an industry 3.0 factory, and then when they feel like it's time for 4.0, they go build another one somewhere else and shut down the 3.0 one, instead of continually making that 3.0 better. And if you look at companies who have actually continued to invest in the same original factories and go and push them forward, they actually do financially significantly better, and production-wise, they do significantly better. But a lot of times, the simple mentality is, I built a 3.0 factory, I ran it for 20 years, now I'm building a 4.0 factory, and I'm going to run that one. So there's a difference there in kind of the structure of how you push forward.
See, I like that. I like that community involvement. I like what you said. You put it in their hands, and they'll make the decisions that they need for their community, rather than somebody in Boston or LA or wherever, just closing something down. I love that. I'm doing the Dow because I saw it as two things that it gave me that I didn't have. I didn't have an exit strategy. I had no idea how I was going to get out of this and like replace myself because we're a bit crazy, but I'll leave that to the side. So I saw it as an exit strategy, but I also saw it as a way to be regenerative. So I'm assuming, you take your profits, you do whatever, you travel or whatever your lifestyle is, but I imagine you go and invest in another community that needs someone like you guys.
Yeah. So the way, I mean, our structural plan is we know our exit point for the first fund, and then we're just going to do it again. And we've actually even outright told people we don't mind you using our blueprint. Go do this for people. Like this is truly a way to make a difference and run a business doing it. So it really just it's not a complex process. It's really there's some specialties. You have to understand the space like any other business and all stuff, but you can actually make a difference, a palatable difference in people's lives by doing this.
I love it. So a couple more questions in this space. Do you work much with community colleges?
We try to.
Like, yeah,
It is sometimes hit or miss. Unfortunately, a lot of community colleges have moved out of the manufacturing space
yeah.
because it goes back to that same mentality though. Oh, this isn't where people want to be. Yet that's not. I don't think that's true. So we do try to work with them as much as we can. Actually, my vice president of manufacturing, he's got 8 or 9 up in Northern California now that he's like constantly trying to pull off of. And hey, what can we work with you guys on? But you also need to you have to educate people that hey, these are very good jobs. These are not your grandpa's factory anymore. They're white floors and bright lights. Like it's a beautiful. They're good places to work.
You use a lot of words that. Do you study abundance?
No,
No, you
no.
you sound like an abundance theorist at some level. The way
Oh,
you're thinking, the way you guys, because there is abundance all around us. We just mismanage it most of the time and do things to each other that aren't good for each other, and we're competing and hurting each other and not collaborating. And we share our blueprint too. We want 10,000 fledges, and we don't want to own a single one of them. And it just is. There's enough out there for all of us.
yeah, and it's especially it really just in my life, as long as I aligned with good people, all trying to do the right thing, the rewards of it always come. They no matter what, that is what happens. So we've just, and I've surrounded myself with a team that is all like that. I'm very, very picky, especially from an ownership level of who I do business with. And I made sure that my team, I actually, at one point, we were having a conversation. We're all in an event in Miami. And I turned to the team. I'm like, we need to go take a day. And I want everyone to explain exactly why we're doing this. Because I want to memorialize it. I don't want us to ever forget. And flew everyone to Texas. They came. We spent 12 hours straight just writing down and talking about what drove us to want to do this. And everyone left going, that's our guidance, no matter what happens.
So, man, that sounds it. So, did you write a book?
No, we did not.
Well, that leads into my next question, though. Why are we talking today? Why are you doing the podcast? What are you trying to get out there? What's your message?
So there's 2 things. So first off, we're inviting anybody to come check us out, mrca.net. See what we're doing. If you're an accredited investor and interested in participating, please, there's a way on there to actually reach out directly to have a meeting with me and discuss kind of what your goals and what you're doing. So we are continually looking for investors to join on and join the process. But also more importantly, we're trying to get the message out that this is possible and that it's valuable. There's really a really cool opportunity right now to really protect these communities. I just got word this morning to there are a ton of not even American corporations, but foreign corporations now coming in and buying these companies. And the first thing they do is they'll close them down and move production either outside the U.S. or they'll centralize into one giant factory. And we want to make sure that we're protecting the people that are in there. Now, that does not mean we're saving every job. No, we're revitalizing the jobs. We're getting people to do new things, new processes, so that they've got long-term stability. So our purpose for being on these podcasts is, one, we're raising funds to go buy more and more and do our mission, but also to really get people to understand what it means to revitalize these communities. And this is a very strong economic way to do so.
See, I love that you came on our show, because our community needs to hear this. We're, Ari Old started in Lansing here, became part of General Motors. Now there's no Oldsmobile left. We have tons of big facility or land that is just cement, where there used to be a factory and now there's nothing. A lot of times it's toxic, so it's a brownfield. And then, these companies come back. General Motors, for example, just is going to invest $8 billion in their battery factory in Lansing. And we're excited about that. But we also, man, what's that going to look like in 30 years? Are they going to do what you said? And just 5.0 or 6.0, whatever it would be. So yeah.
And I think the other thing that is very important, and a lot of Americans, I don't think, understand it. There's a fallacy out there that it's cheaper to produce in other countries. And the reality is it's just simply not true on a lot of products anymore. And I back this up with the best example I could ever pull. This company gave it to me. It was awesome. So Foxconn builds the iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
Arguably the number one contract manufacturer in the world. They're building a plant in Wisconsin. They've figured out that it's better to manufacture here. They wouldn't do that just because they want. No. So the fallacy of it's cheaper to produce overseas anymore is not true. It was there for a little while. Technology, processes, other things caught up and have now stabilized it, that it is very viable to produce in the U.S. And frankly, we don't have enough capacity to produce in the U.S. yet. So all of these companies that we're looking at, they've got great growth potential because it's that moment in time.
Yeah. So, man, I think you've given us a gem here, and I really appreciate that. If my community's listening, and we're manufacturing guys, because we watched our families come home from General Motors or the state government. That's the only two places you could work back in the 70s and 80s. What advice could you give our community on maybe something simple we could do to help promote this? Go to your website for one thing. I'm definitely coming to check it out in a minute.
Definitely just share any social media we've got. Share this podcast. It is, like I said, if our website has the ability to directly reach out to me or two of the other general partners also. If you want to just talk about, hey, here's what's going on in my community. Do we know a way to look at something like this? Also, if you're in manufacturing and you're working for a company, start looking for how things can be done better. There is a huge aspect of this that the community also needs to switch to a growth mindset. And that's hard. And I understand it. It's hard for everybody, because that means change, that means development, and those are things that historically have been scary. So really try to kind of push for that of, hey, I want to learn a new skill, or I want to try something a little different, because that is what's going to make any manufacturer stay in your town, because they're like, oh, great, you know what? These guys are awesome. So there is a balance there. So, but like I said, we are an open book. If someone wants to reach out and talk, we are more than happy.
All right. I might be taking you up on that, or I know some people out here. And I just want to give a shout out to Joe Walker from thisent.com. He'll do a summary of the show and repost it. So he is the man, but he said you are awesome, and thank you for that. So appreciate it. Hey, this was great.
Awesome.
Anything we forgot?
No, I had a lot of fun, and definitely I think it's really cool what you guys are doing and what we're and how we can align.
All right. Well, stick with me for a second. That's a wrap, everyone. See you tomorrow on Every Damn Day. I love you all, and we will talk to you later.